aimed a disguised water gun straight at a royal guard's face and pulled the trigger. What happened next? It wasn't a joke, it was a reckoning. When a young man, Liam Novak, a 25-year-old content creator from Canada, stepped into the courtyard of Buckingham Palace, he wasn't there to admire history, he came chasing views. Inside what looked like a $500 0-cents DSLR camera was a high-powered water blaster, custom-built for a trending TikTok challenge. Provoke the royal guard and catch the reaction. But what Liam triggered wasn't just a stream of water. It was a confrontation with centuries of discipline and a moment that left an entire crowd silent. If this story hits you, like it did us, tap like, drop a comment, and subscribe to Guard Royals. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers so we can keep sharing powerful stories that remind us what true service looks like. Stick around until the end, because sometimes crossing the line doesn't get you likes, it gets you consequences. Liam positioned himself just 10 feet from the stoic guard. His camera, really a concealed water gun, hung from his neck like a badge of misplaced pride. Around him, the courtyard buzzed with tourists snapping photos, children giggling, and history quietly standing tall in scarlet uniform. He winked toward his friend Ryan, who was reluctantly filming from the sidelines. "Watch this," Liam muttered. At first it was small things. Liam mimicked the guard's stance, exaggerated his posture like a puppet, even tried a fake British accent. Some laughed, most didn't. An older couple stepped back. A castle staff member approached quietly. "Sir, we kindly ask visitors to treat the royal guard with respect." Liam smiled and nodded, then waited for her to walk away before rolling his eyes dramatically at the camera. That's when the mood began to shift. People weren't amused anymore. Their laughter turned into murmurs. A child clutched his mother's hand. A man in a military veteran's hat looked on, arms folded. But Liam, he doubled down. He leaned in closer to the guard, Sergeant Benjamin Hale, a decorated veteran with 2 tours behind him. "Bet you get bored standing here all day, huh? Do they let you blink?" he taunted. Sergeant Hale didn't flinch. But Ryan lowered his camera. "Liam, this is going too far." Liam didn't listen. He reached for the camera rig. That's when everything began to unravel. Deals. Liam's fingers tightened around the rig. With one last glance toward the camera, he muttered, "Let's see if the Queen's tin soldier can handle a little splash." Then he pulled the trigger. The jet of water hit Sergeant Benjamin Hales square in the face, dead center. It wasn't a drizzle, but a sharp, focused blast designed for comedic impact. For a second, the only sound was the hiss of plastic and the splatter of water hitting polished brass. And then, nothing. No laughter, no cheers, no viral moment. Just silence. Sergeant Hale didn't flinch. He didn't wipe the water off. He didn't even blink. He stood soaked and still, water trickling down his face, collecting at the corners of his eyes like uncried tears. His bearskin hat sagged slightly, his red tunic darkened with every drop. Liam's smirk began to fade. Around him, the crowd stepped back in unison, as if instinctively sensing something sacred had been violated. Mothers turned their children away, older men removed their hats. And yet Hale still didn't move. Not until he looked directly at Liam. That look changed everything. It wasn't anger. It wasn't outrage. It was deeper. It was disappointment. The kind that came from someone who had seen too much to be surprised, but still hoped better of the world. For the first time, Liam felt truly exposed. The silence was broken only by the voice of a woman, soft, shaking, British accent. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. She looked to be in her 60s. Her husband stood beside her wearing a military pin. "My son wore that same uniform and he never came home." Liam froze. Suddenly, this wasn't a prank anymore. It was personal. For her, for the guard. For every person who had ever worn that uniform and been treated like a tourist attraction instead of a soldier. Sergeant Hale finally moved. He stepped forward, one precise stride, and in a single fluid motion he reached out and took hold of Liam's wrist. Not violently, but firmly. The kind of grip that said, "You don't move unless I let you." With his other hand, he removed the fake camera from Liam's neck. The crowd gasped. Some filmed, others didn't dare. Liam swallowed hard. "It's just water," he said, his voice smaller than he'd ever heard it. "It's not just water," Hale replied. "It's a line you crossed." Just as the tension hit its peak, a boy in the crowd, no older than 10, stepped forward and saluted Hale. The guard didn't break eye contact with Liam, but gave a subtle nod in return. That moment said more than words. This wasn't about discipline. It was about what the uniform stood for. And now, everyone knew Liam had mocked more than just a man. He had mocked sacrifice. For the first time since he started making content, Liam didn't know where to look. The water still clung to Sergeant Hale's uniform, dripping silently onto the ancient stone beneath them. His posture remained unbroken, his face unreadable, but there was something unmistakably human in his eyes. Something that made Liam feel small, in a way no comment section ever had. Security arrived within moments. 2 guards flanked Liam, but Hale didn't release his grip immediately, not out of malice, but to make a point. "This isn't a costume," the guard said quietly, but clearly enough for those nearby to hear. "These aren't props." Liam nodded weakly. His usual charisma had drained from his face, replaced by a pale stillness. "What you did wasn't a prank," Hale continued. "It was disrespect. You may not understand it now, but you will." As the fake camera was turned over to security, Liam was escorted to the side, not in handcuffs, but in consequence. He wasn't the star of a viral video anymore. He was a young man who had just learned a lesson the hard way. Ryan, still holding the real camera, had stopped recording long ago. "I told you, man," he whispered. They sat him down inside a quiet corner of the security office. It wasn't jail, but it didn't need to be. The weight of what he'd done was already pressing on his chest like a stone. After a few minutes, Sergeant Hale entered. "I'm not pressing charges," he said simply. "But you need to understand something." Liam looked up, almost afraid to meet his eyes. "I served in Afghanistan, lost good men there. I volunteered for ceremonial duty because I believe in what it represents. This uniform tells the world that we remember, that we still care, that we still stand." Liam couldn't speak, his throat tightened. "You walked into that courtyard thinking it was a stage, but for me, and for a lot of others, it's sacred ground." Hale reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small folded photo. It showed 3 soldiers in desert fatigues, smiling, arms around each other. "That's me on the left," he said, pointing. "The man in the middle? He's not here anymore. An IED, 2019. We buried him with full honors. His mom visits the palace every year because she says it's where she feels closest to him." Liam blinked fast, trying to hold back the burning in his eyes. "I mocked all of that," he finally whispered. "I thought I was being funny, but I had no idea." "No, you didn't," Hale replied, "but now you do." A long pause followed, not uncomfortable, just heavy with meaning. "You have a platform," the guard said. "Maybe next time use it to build something, not break it." And with that, Sergeant Hale stood, straightened his still wet tunic and walked out, his boots echoing against stone, each step a quiet testament to strength earned, not performed. The next morning, Liam sat alone in his hotel room, staring at his phone. He hadn't posted anything in nearly 24 hours, something unheard of for someone who built his brand on constant content. But this wasn't about algorithms anymore. It was about responsibility. His inbox was flooded, not with praise, but with questions. Why would you do that to a soldier? He crossed a line. Do you even understand what that uniform means? The video had made its way online, posted by others in the crowd, not by Liam or Ryan. Without edits, without punchlines, just raw footage of a young man making a mistake and a soldier who responded with grace and dignity. And people were watching, millions. But something strange was happening. The world wasn't canceling Liam. They weren't calling for his head. They were calling for reflection. Some demanded an apology. Others wanted to hear his side. But most of all, people wanted to see if he would do the one thing most influencers never do. For the first time, Liam didn't reach for the camera to perform. He turned it on to listen. Later that evening, he uploaded a simple, unedited video titled, "What the Royal Guard Taught Me." No music, no jump cuts, just Liam, sitting quietly in front of a window where the London rain fell softly behind him. "I thought I knew how to get people's attention," he began, "but yesterday, I learned what it means to earn someone's respect, and I failed at that." He recounted the moment of the prank, the silence that followed, and the conversation with Sergeant Hale. But he didn't try to excuse it. He owned it. "What I did was wrong. I mocked something I didn't understand. I used my platform to get laughs, at the expense of men and women who've sacrificed everything, including people like the man in Sergeant Hale's photo." He paused, holding back tears, not for the camera but because the weight of the photo still lingered in his mind. "I saw a picture of 3 soldiers. One of them didn't come home, and I realized I made a joke out of someone's memory." The comments poured in, but this time they weren't angry, they were hopeful. People thanked him for admitting fault. Veterans left messages of forgiveness, but also reminders that respect must be learned, not assumed. One user wrote, "We've seen influencers fall, but this might be one of the few times we've seen one stand back up for the right reason." The next day, Liam went back to Buckingham Palace. No camera, no crew, just himself. He stood quietly behind the rope, like every other visitor. This time he didn't try to break the guard's focus, he honored it. After the ceremony, he left behind a note, folded and tucked into the visitor feedback box. It read simply, "To Sergeant Hale, thank you for not reacting with anger but with honor. That moment changed me." 2 weeks after returning home to Vancouver, Liam Novak found himself in an unfamiliar place, not just emotionally, but physically. He was standing outside a local veterans center. His palms were sweaty, his mind swirled with doubt. Was he really ready to show his face here? After his apology video went viral, Liam had received thousands of comments. Some were forgiving, others skeptical, but one message stood out. It was from Daniel Hayes, a retired U.S. Marine who now ran a youth mentorship program for at-risk teens. "You messed up," the message read, "but you also owned it. That takes guts. Come talk to some of these kids. They need to hear what you learned." Liam had stared at the message for hours. He wasn't sure he was worthy, but something in Sergeant Hale's words had stuck with him. Use your platform to build something. So here he was. Daniel greeted him at the door with a firm handshake. "Glad you came. These kids don't need perfect role models. They need honest ones." Inside, a dozen teenagers sat slouched in folding chairs, half listening to a guest speaker before Liam. But when it was his turn, and he introduced himself as the guy who sprayed a royal guard with water, every head turned. He told the story, not the viral version, but the human one. He talked about ego, pressure, chasing relevance, and the moment he realized the difference between attention and integrity. He showed them the photo Hale had shared with him and admitted how little he truly knew about sacrifice. When he finished, one of the teens raised his hand. A tall, quiet kid in the back named Marcus, wearing a hoodie pulled over his head. "My brother's a soldier," he said softly. "I used to laugh when people disrespected the military online, but it kind of hurts now. I guess I didn't know how to say that until today." That one comment meant more to Liam than any subscriber count ever had. He stayed for hours after the talk, just sitting with the group answering questions not about TikTok, but about failure and owning it. Later that evening, Daniel pulled him aside. "You've got a second chance, Liam. Most don't. What are you going to do with it?" That night, back home, Liam opened his laptop and made a decision. He archived nearly every prank video from his past. He changed his channel description to one simple sentence: "Using my voice for stories that matter." And he meant it. The following week, he posted a new video titled, "Not every uniform is meant to be broken." It wasn't about clicks. It was about connection. It featured interviews with veterans behind the scenes at a ceremonial guard training facility and stories of discipline that stretched far beyond royal courtyards. And to Liam's surprise, people didn't leave. They stayed, they watched, they shared. He may have started out chasing virality, but now, for the first time, he was chasing something real. One crisp autumn morning, Liam found himself back in London, not for content, not for clicks, but for closure. It had been 6 months since the incident at Buckingham Palace, since the viral moment that flipped his world upside down, since the quiet conversation with Sergeant Benjamin Hale that sparked a transformation deeper than any comment thread could capture. Liam didn't announce his return online. This trip wasn't about publicity. It was personal. He arrived just before the changing of the guard. The same courtyard, the same timeless stone, but this time he stood respectfully at a distance. No camera, no jokes, just quiet reverence. He wasn't sure if Sergeant Hale would be on duty today, but fate has a strange way of honoring second chances. At precisely 11:00 a.m., the guards emerged, and there he was. Hale posture perfect, boots sharp, uniform impeccable. The same man who'd once stood soaked in silence now stood as a symbol of unshaken discipline. Liam didn't approach. He didn't wave. He simply stood quietly for the full ceremony, watching, remembering. When it ended and the guards retreated, a castle staff member approached Liam cautiously. "You're Liam Novak, aren't you?" He nodded. "There's someone who said if you ever came back, he'd be willing to speak with you." Liam followed her to a quiet corridor just beyond the main courtyard, and there, off-duty and out of uniform, stood Sergeant Hale. He looked surprised, but not cold, just curious. "I wasn't sure you'd come back," Hale said. "I had to," Liam replied. "I needed to say thank you. And I needed to tell you what's changed." Hale listened as Liam spoke, not just about deleting his old videos or the new content, but about Marcus, the teenager who found his voice during that youth center talk, about the veterans he'd interviewed, about learning the true meaning of service. "You told me to use my platform to build something," Liam said, "so I am." There was a pause. Then Hale extended his hand. "I appreciate that," he said. "Most people just move on. You didn't." Before they parted, Hale reached into his coat pocket once again. This time he handed Liam something small, a pin featuring the insignia of the regiment he served with. "This isn't an award," he clarified. "It's a reminder of how fast things can break and how much stronger they can become when rebuilt the right way." Liam accepted it with both hands, unable to speak for a moment. As he stepped back into the courtyard, he looked out over the crowds. Tourists laughing, kids pointing, phones recording. But now he saw it differently. It wasn't just performance. It was protection. It was pride. Back home, Liam posted one final video in the series. It wasn't long, just a simple clip of him placing the pin on his desk, next to the folded photo of Sergeant Hale's old squad. His voice closed it out. "I came to London thinking respect could be earned with views. But I learned the truth. Respect is earned when we choose to listen, to change, and to stand up, for more than just ourselves. What would you do if someone disrespected everything you stood for, and you had to decide between reacting with force or with grace? Let's pause the story for a moment and ask an honest question. If you were in Sergeant Hale's shoes that day, standing proud, soaked in your uniform, humiliated in front of hundreds, how would you have responded? Would you have snapped, raised your voice, demanded consequences? Most of us probably would have. It's human, it's instinct. But Hale didn't. He responded with composure, not because he was weak, but because he was strong enough to choose dignity over retaliation. That's where the true lesson lives. In today's world, where outrage travels faster than facts, and viral moments often overshadow virtue, it's rare to see someone pause and choose respect when they have every reason not to. Hale could have reacted in anger. He could have had Liam arrested on the spot. Instead, he did something far more powerful. He taught the man a lesson he'd remember for the rest of his life. And here's what we as viewers, especially those of us who've lived through decades of change, can take from this. Grace under pressure is the mark of true character. In life, we will all be tested. Maybe not in front of Buckingham Palace with cameras rolling, but in family disagreements, unfair treatment at work, or when someone cuts us off in traffic. Those moments don't define the person who wronged us. They define us. Like Sergeant Hale, we can choose to be still when chaos comes close. We can choose to lead by example, not ego. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And let's be honest, for many of us watching, parents, grandparents, veterans, we've spent years trying to teach younger generations these exact values. Honor, accountability, listening before reacting. So imagine the pride, the validation, in seeing a young man like Liam finally get it. Not because he was punished, but because someone took the time to show him why it mattered. If you were the guard, what would you do? Take a moment. Imagine standing there, centuries of tradition on your shoulders, tourists watching, a young man mocking your very presence. Would you have stayed calm? Would you have remembered that every action in uniform reflects something bigger than yourself? It's not easy. And that's why Sergeant Hale's reaction wasn't just professional, it was inspiring. His response reminded the world that real power doesn't come from reacting, it comes from rising above. So, what's the life lesson here? Respect isn't outdated. Tradition isn't a costume. And mistakes, when met with grace, can become the most powerful lessons of all. Liam's story isn't just about a prank gone wrong. It's about the power of humility, the courage to apologize, and the strength it takes to forgive. Your turn to reflect. If you had been in Sergeant Hale's position, how would you have handled it? Would you have acted differently? Would you have shown restraint? Would you have used the moment to educate or retaliate? Rate this story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Let us know what this moment meant to you. Did it surprise you, inspire you, remind you of someone from your life? Let's keep stories like this alive. This video moved you, even just a little. Give it a thumbs up, it helps the story reach more people who need to hear it. Share your thoughts in the comments, we read every single one. Subscribe to Guard Royals and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers as we continue to tell stories that honor those who serve and remind the world what true character looks like. Because sometimes the best stories aren't the loudest. They're the ones that stay with you long after the screen fades to black.